Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? And how do I make money from my podcast? Well, the answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. I like to use Anchor because it gets our podcast into all the apps that people use and to as many ears as possible. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. And I can't wait to hear your podcast.
I'm feeling pretty good.
I'm rolling.
Yeah, we
Before we
sure
got
did.
started,
Probably
so.
like maybe a half hour's worth.
Was it
Maybe.
recorded?
Yeah, time goes by fast in the podcast.
That did not feel like a half hour at all.
It never does.
All right.
All right, yeah. Now we're back though, and we're moving on to 5 through 1, top 5
Top
of the
5.
decade. So Jake, why don't you start us off with your number 5?
I will do that. Number 5. We actually already talked about. Luke had it higher up, I believe, or lower, I should say. Is Moonlight, which everything he said previously, I would agree with, and that movie, on a personal level, has really shaped how I look at independent film and how, that movie really democratized it and made it really accessible to a lot of people. Even, that movie was produced by Brad Pitt and released by A24 and was a pretty giant hit compared to its budget, which was, I believe, around $2 million. And the way that movie was marketed, which was it's about a young gay black kid in the projects, and you kind of have your preconceived notions going in, but it's not like that at all. It's a really melancholy movie about growing up and life, and how just singular moments really shape your perception on everything, and your relationships primarily, and how you sort of view yourself in the world that other people don't. And in the case of the young boy that we follow for decades, is just astounding how truthful it is to how it really is like growing up. Aside from the love story in that movie, I think it's a timeless depiction on how so many singular just moments in someone's life can create a trajectory of bad decisions, and just how you react to certain things. And that movie is so beautifully constructed. The score is amazing. It's shot like no other movie, with just so many really great tracking shots, especially towards the beginning, just sort of acclimating you in this world. I think Mahershala Ali is deserved the Oscar. I think he's incredible. I think it deserved the screenplay win at the Oscars, and of course the Best Picture. And I think what's so great about that movie, and why we will look at it, say 20, 30 years from now, it transcends any sort of notion of what it's like to grow up in the projects, or to grow up anywhere, because that movie, I think, can relate to anyone, no matter their gender, no matter their sexual orientation, no matter how they view the world. I think it's a movie that's collectively shows who we are as human beings, and how empathy is important, and how everyone in our life surrounding us is important. And it goes way beyond just a simple love story, and I think is top 5 movies of the 2010s. And I know you guys agree already, because we already talked about it.
Yeah, Moonlight, great pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good. I wish
It's definitely one that'll be remembered for a while. Yeah, one of the best movies of the of the millennia.
Millennia.
To the millennia.
Absolutely. And just quick shout outs for Barry Jenkins before we move on. He has a movie called Medicine for Melancholy that came out in 2011, 2012, was made for nothing, and is such a beautiful movie. And I think Moonlight wouldn't exist without that movie, because it shows how empathetic he is for his characters and how much he really cares about humanity and how, we communicate. And I think that movie, and of course with Moonlight and Beale Street, like we said before, Barry Jenkins is one of the best, most celebrated filmmakers of our time for a reason. So, yeah, Moonlight.
And actually I really like Barry Jenkins a lot now, and I was reading, I guess, more into Moonlight, and apparently he filmed a lot of it where he sort of grew up in Florida, and a lot of some people in the area were like upset that it's this big like Hollywood movie filming here, like this is so annoying.
Yeah.
We hate you, get out of here. And then they
all
found
the
out
the old white people.
yeah. But all the people in the
Ironically.
community then found out that the guy who was making the film was from there. So then they turned around and they were like, oh, this is that's great.
Yeah, that's really cool.
He seems like a really great guy. Yeah, I'm excited to see whatever he does next. Yeah.
Also, Naomi Harris, who's the mother in that movie, she's also in Skyfall, which you were mentioned before.
Moneypenny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She filmed that movie in 3 days, and she played 3 different aspects of age and character, and it's just insane. She shot that in 3 days.
She is amazing in that.
She's one of the best actresses we have. Based on that performance alone and being in Bond, I think she's incredible.
Yeah.
And going back to Skyfall too, the character of Moneypenny is usually used to just be this older woman who's like sexually infatuated with James Bond.
Right.
And finally with Naomi Harris, it's actually like a competent person working in like MI6.
And it's more
rather than just this
a
ridiculous character.
it's more of a
so
a traditional professional partnership.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Anyhow.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Luke?
So my number 5 is a movie that I know is one of Jake's favorites. He showed me it, and I've watched it a couple times, and it just screams. It just screams for of importance of a time period, and it is Andrea Arnold's 2016 film American Honey. I've been trying to get more into Andrea Arnold recently, since a bunch of her stuff dropped on the Criterion Channel. Basically, all her features and all her shorts, and I am mainly interested in getting into her work because of this film. Watching it was really unforgettable. I felt like almost in a way I've never felt before during a movie, in just how empowering and freeing the feeling that this movie gives you, and it also has just such an independent, real feel about real people, and it also has Shia LaBeouf killing it. Let me read the description, because I didn't say anything about it other than I liked it. A teenage girl with nothing to lose joins a traveling magazine sales crew and gets caught up in a whirlwind of hard partying, law bending, and young love as she crisscrosses the Midwest with a band of misfits. So yeah, I just really have this movie has always stayed in my mind. Just like various scenes, the soundtrack, and just the overall feeling it gave me, and it is just an incredible portrait of contemporary America. And I don't know, John, have you seen The Florida Project?
No, we just talked about that our last episode, though.
We did.
Yeah. I know a decent amount about the Florida Project.
So I would compare it into that a way, except the a very different vibe, very different energy, and very much about just kind of the lower class of America in like more in the southern region, and it brings just a lot of insight into this into the culture and just the how the modern day world has shaped these people. And the American Honey is a must watch for the decade.
Yeah, and that's one. Part of the reason I'm really glad we're doing this top 10 is that I knew you guys would pull out some that I haven't seen yet that I really should. And American Honey is one that I've heard a lot about, but I haven't gotten around to seeing. And it's with Shia LaBeouf and the girl that's in it too. What else has she been in?
Riley Keough. She's in a lot. I'm blanking, but
she looks
she
so
does a lot of.
I know I've seen her in something else, but yeah.
Oh man, she's been in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
She's great in the movie too. Like he said, it's gonna be way higher up on my list, so I'm gonna hold my tongue for now. But I love that movie too, so that's all I'll say now.
Yeah. All right, American Honey.
That's cool, guys. We can move on.
That was a really good.
That's fine.
That was a really good description. I will say a really good description. Why I love that movie too.
I'm satisfied.
I will chime in later.
I'm satisfied with that moment.
And I will also say right now, I'm definitely interested in whatever Shia LaBeouf does now. I think he's a really interesting person, just in general.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm always.
So when I was
intrigued.
talking to you about Honey Boy, and I was mentioning like, Shia LaBeouf has some performances, and like as it has been in some movies that are just like my favorites of the decade.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I meant. Like Shia's fantastic in this movie.
He loves honey.
Yep.
Yeah, sure does.
He sure does.
Can't get enough of it. All right.
So then my number 5 is another one that's also on Luke's list, which is The Social Network.
Yes.
So yeah, I won't go. We talked a lot about it. I won't go on too much more. But it's easily one of the more important movies of the decade of our generation, and I feel like years from now it'll still be talked about, and there'll be probably even more movies made about what social media has become right now.
There will be like a Netflix show all about social media, and it'll suck.
It was the past 9 years. Just think of how much Facebook has changed since then.
Right.
And now I've since been to Facebook headquarters out here.
Oh yeah, the new digs.
Yes, and just to see the sort of campus they have for this company, it's like insane, the amount of people and just buildings and technology and all this stuff that goes into a platform that now is used for like grandmas to post pictures and for people to share like random fake news on. It's just crazy how well, first of all, I love how the book that it's based on is called The Accidental Billionaires, which I think is like the perfect title for
it's so good, yeah.
What social media is really. There's all these people like Zuckerberg and the guys who started Google and Twitter, and just how it's all in just a short period of time become this huge behemoth. And the Social Network is, regardless of what it's about, even is just a great story, sort of about
two friends.
Yeah, two friends, really. Yeah,
really.
Jealousy and rage and entrepreneurship in general. Yeah.
Marketing.
Yeah, it's
finance.
Regardless of what it's about, it's still like there's so many themes that you can take away from it. But it's another one that's super rewatchable, and I don't know if we talked about this before too, but the score was great.
Trent
too.
Reznor,
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that no.
Yeah, very simple, but really good.
Yeah, and all the synths, the synthy, and then the piano. Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Social Network coming up again.
Coming around the bend.
Coming around the
Social
bend.
Network.
All right, now we're on to number 4.
We're really getting in deep, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we're in the trenches now.
The point of no return, huh? Okay. This is uh, this is a more obscure movie, like the French movie I did before, and it's because it's from a foreign director. I hope you guys have heard of this movie. My number four pick is Melancholia, directed by Lars von
Yes.
Trier, stars Kirsten Dunst, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Kiefer Sutherland. And real quick, just to describe the plot of this movie, because it's so insane when you say it out loud. Essentially, Kirsten Dunst is getting married to one of the Sarsgaard brothers. I can't keep them straight in my head. One of the Skarsgårds, and she's essentially the most depressed character you've ever seen on film. And basically, you see her the night of her wedding rehearsal and her eventual wedding unfold. Um, but then the movie takes an unexpected turn where it jumps forward in time to where Kirsten Dunst and her sister discover that another planet is going to collide with Earth. So it really becomes a tr- just tragic, frantic sci-fi story. And what Lars von Trier does in this movie that I think is so brilliant is that he comments on depression, which I think is really hard to do in film, and he displays it in a way that is so earth-shattering. Like quite literally, it's put against the backdrop of Earth being destroyed and how depression affects people that much, which is I think brilliant to do to put. It's kind of what Arrival did with sci-fi, which is to tell a really human, emotional story with the backdrop of aliens. And in the case of Melancholia, it's more literal, like the
Yeah.
Earth is going to collide with another planet. And this movie's so layered. It's really hard to put into one soundbite. But I think why I put it on my list is that, first of all, Kirsten Dunst, I think, one of our greatest actresses that we have. Her work with Sofia Coppola and Fargo and Spider-Man. She's the best. And this movie is her most understated and her most physically just demanding performances. She's great in it. But also, movies that tackle depression just usually don't work for me because it never really captures the feeling that you have when you're in your deepest just fights against it. And that's what Melancholia really captures. And I think, with mental health crises happening in our country and all over the world, this movie's important. And I really hope other people watch it because it's so truthful. And on top of that, a really compelling sci-fi movie at the same time. So you get the big for your buck. Watch Melancholia if you guys haven't seen it yet. It's my number 4.
I have not seen it. I've seen that image of Kirsten Dunst. I just looked it up.
Right.
Same. I've seen it on
yeah.
a lot of when I was researching my top 10 list, I saw Melancholia top a good amount of lists.
Yes.
By well-respected film journalism media sites, and yeah, I've been meaning to get down the Lars von Trier rabbit hole more.
It's a dark rabbit
I've
hole.
only watched Nymphomaniac Volume 1, and I have a long way to go. There's a lot more to see, I know. But yeah, I gotta see Melancholia now for sure.
Definitely
Yeah.
do. And the thing with Lars von Trier is he like I said with Harmony Korine and so many of these Spike Lee even, he looks at the world in a very personal way and just tells us we need to be better about mental health and we need to be better about how we communicate. And it's 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 a very sad movie, but it's also a really angry movie at the same time, and not an easy watch. I will tell you guys that, but it's a very rewarding and emotional experience that I think has been celebrated, which is great, and a lot of people love it. And Lars von Trier is a really, really complex filmmaker. If you've heard about his comments at Cannes Film Festival and how divisive he is, but yeah, I think if you've suffered from depression or if you know anyone that suffered from depression, that movie really rings true to a lot of things.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Kirsten Dunst too, because I think she
Yes.
She is just so great.
She is. Season 2 of Fargo is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I love that so much. But prior to even that, I mean, what I remember her most from is just Spider-Man. Which I love those movies. But yeah, seeing her nowadays too, she was kind of like a typical like girl next door almost in the early 2000s. But she's actually a great actress, and yeah, I'm glad you brought her up. Yeah, Melancholia, that's added to my list now. Got to see that.
Awesome.
Nice.
Great. With that sad note, move on to number 4 for you.
So my number 4 is not as sad as that.
Uplift us.
It is. I would say it is much more uplifting. It is spiritually uplifting, and I will say that I've watched this multiple times and have felt reborn, if you will.
Jeez.
So, how about that for build up? I wanted to put. I knew I needed one Jim Jarmusch movie on this list, and I was torn between 2, and so I decided to go with Patterson with Adam Driver. I mean Jake showed me this movie too, and so I don't need to ask him. But yeah, John, if I out of all the movies I've recommended to you over all these episodes we've done, I would put this at the top of your list, because I think you would personally really fucking like it. Yeah, this movie is mainly about Adam Driver as a poet / bus driver, living in Paterson, New Jersey, and it is based on a poetry book by William Carlos Williams, and it is very much about just daily life and finding creativity and art out of everyday life. And it is just a very simple, humble film about humble characters, but yet it is so powerful and spiritual and beautiful at the same time. Adam Driver and his wife in this film, who is played by... Oh, that's a name that is so hard.
Don't even try to pronounce
I'm not
it.
even
It's fine.
Try. John and I have
You're butchering
names.
everybody's
we
name.
have butchered names every episode, and I'm not gonna do this one because she is so great.
You'll remember her name once you see it again. It's okay.
Yeah,
She's
it's all
so good in
about
it.
seeing the name rather than hearing it.
It's about believing.
Yeah, believing that she exists. And so yeah, this film is just, for me, was just so personally inspiring and just rejuvenating, and really helped me gain a lot of perspective on how to view everyday life, and how to view how creativity goes along with that. And yeah, I just think everyone who is somewhat interesting should see it. And John, you are definitely somewhat interesting, so you should see it.
That's the nicest thing anyone said about me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're
I know,
somewhat
right?
intriguing.
And intriguing. And so yeah, I would say that out of all the movies on this list, this is one of the most humble, personal movies to me.
That's actually I think we talked about Patterson briefly in another episode.
Yeah, probably.
And since then it's on Amazon Prime, and I added it to my list there, and I just for some reason haven't watched it. But now for sure, with your endorsement of it, I've got to watch it soon. So I definitely will watch that probably in the next week or two. Awesome.
Yeah, love it a lot. I could and it just the rewatch is, it just doesn't get old, the effect as well.
It's literally built into the structure of that movie. It's promotes rewatch because it's like you follow him day by day.
Exactly.
And where
exactly.
it becomes like every step of that movie becomes just a new portal into like different themes and different
it's
character traits about Adam Driver.
It's
that
very
movie,
much got that slice of life feel, as it is kind of
like,
structured as in like a week of the life of Patterson.
Just like
Jarmusch's
characters, or Jarmusch's movies are very he's like the mundane master, really. Like, he follows characters through just really quote-unquote trivial parts of their lives, but he celebrates the every man and the every woman, which is why he's one of my favorite directors. That movie is perfection. It comes from one of the best years of the decade, if we're going to talk about the decade specifically. Like, we talked about Moonlight, and Patterson came out that year too. Manchester by the Sea came out that year, and so many great movies. And that's definitely one that's stuck with me, and Jarmusch always sticks with me, and that movie is very special.
Yeah, so watch it, John.
All right.
All right.
We're just like forcing it down your throat, basically.
You're gonna watch it.
I was definitely interested in watching it before, but now even more so. So no, I'm for sure gonna.
I wanted to watch it
yeah.
before, but now I really don't want to watch it.
Now I don't. Yeah.
Mundane? Are you fucking kidding me?
And we're like, well, fuck you.
My life is the opposite of mundane.
So on to my number 4 then.
My life is just freaking awesome. So no way. Yeah.
Real quick before we move on, I think Adam Driver is one of the best actors of the decade by far, and I think that personally is my favorite performance he's given over the decade. I think it speaks most to him as being a great actor, and like why we think he's a great actor, because he for me personally, he always reminds me of myself, because he's the everyman, and he's humble, he's awkward, and he's just extremely caring about other people. He's an inspiring guy, that Adam Driver, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And
he's our dinero.
And he's
just from like a small town in Indiana.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he's in like 10 movies a year now, and they're all acclaimed. Is. Yeah. So, Adam Driver is definitely one that figured would pop up on our list this time around. All right, yeah, number 4. All right, then I'll get to my number 4, which is not as I guess it's pretty serious, but not as serious or deep as those movies are that you both mentioned for your number 4. But it is one of the most enjoyable movies I've seen, and it's Bone Tomahawk.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yes.
It's Craig Zoller movie, which is one I had no idea
we both
anything
Bone
about.
Tomahawk.
What's that?
I said we both liked Bone Tomahawk.
Oh yeah,
I
Bone Tomahawk.
love that movie so much.
I didn't know anything about it, and I listened to Doug Benson's podcast a lot, and
he explained it all.
He's like, you got to see Bone Tomahawk. Anytime someone asks me what's a movie that I haven't seen that's really good and I should see, he says Bone Tomahawk. So I saw it, and immediately it became one of the more rewatchable movies for me that I loved, and I immediately wanted to see more horror western type movies like this. And the cast is great too. Kurt Russell,
so good.
Richard Jenkins.
Richard Jenkins,
yeah.
He's in Step Brothers.
Dale
He's a great character actor. Yeah, Dale Dobeck's dad. Yeah, he's
Mr. Doback.
Mr. Dobeck. He's such a great character actor, and he's so great in this too. And Patrick Wilson, another Fargo TV series Fargo actor. And it's I'm a fan of the Western genre, and this is such a great sort of take on that, but also adding sort of a horror element, but it's not supernatural really. It doesn't ultimately seem too realistic, but it's not way over the top and insane. Like it seems it's terrifying in the sense that it seems like if you were transported back in this time.
Native religious cult horror, like in in I Walked with a Zombie, like something like that, kind of.
Yes, yeah, totally. And it's oh man, it looks so great. It's
Hmm.
I just can't. Since I've seen it one time, I watched it. I rewatched it probably 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
Just since then, and it's just sort of become one of my favorite movies. I guess sort of in the rotation
Yeah.
of
It's one of the
one of my
smallest
favorites.
westerns like ever.
Yeah, yeah, and it's and not only like the big names too, but Matthew Fox, who I think is,
That's right.
as far as I know, he's only been in
Yeah.
like Lost. But
The Lost guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked his character. He was hateable in a good way.
That movie, I think, is
yeah.
deeper than you're giving it credit for. Even like, it is a fun exploitation horror western. But something that S. Craig Zoller, the director, has done is he kind of takes like this conservative outlook on the world, like in that movie, and it's like, what were people afraid of, specifically like the powerful white guys and of that time, and it was like the natives, it was the unknown beyond where they were comfortable. And I think that movie explores that in a really brilliant way. Like, same with, I don't know if you saw Dragged Across Concrete, is like tackles that in a similar way, which is crime and race relations, and I think he's a really great director, and he kind of subverts like how we watch like crime movies and exploitation and horror. I think he's a really unique voice, definitely, and I love
Mhm.
that movie as well.
Yeah, I have. I saw Dragged Across Concrete simply because I loved Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, it's
And
really good.
I still see Brawl in Cell Block, whatever it is, with Vince
Vince
Vaughn.
Vaughn.
Yeah, and as Craig Zoller, I've read up more about him, I guess, since then, and he just seems like a huge movie fan too.
Yep.
And so he kind of has his own style because he's such a nerd about things, and he even I think I saw this too, that he even still rates movies on IMDb, and he has like an
Yes.
IMDb account where he rates and reviews
He's very
movies.
much doing what we do.
Yes, yeah.
He's us.
He's a
Yeah,
man of the
get him on.
people. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point too. It definitely ties into that as well. And yeah, it's just one I was just completely engrossed in from the get go, and yeah, stayed with me for a while. It's definitely one of my favorites.
Definitely.
So it's my number 4. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
great.
that's a quite an. I did not expect that for number 4.
That is
Yeah.
a great pick that I forgot about, so I feel bad that I didn't talk about it, but I'm glad you brought it up. So we are number 3, I believe. Yeah,
Number 3.
top 3. Here's my action movie for this decade that I will include.
Oh,
shit.
Here we go.
Just get your testosterone ready.
Balls to the wall.
By the acclaimed Parasite director Bong Joon-ho. My number 3 is Snowpiercer, which
Nice.
I think is an incredible movie that really didn't. It got its due theatrically, but if you've read about it, that Harvey Weinstein and Miramax really held it back from being what it truly was going to be, which wasn't just a pure action movie, which it is. But what I think is brilliant about that movie is that it explores classism, and it explores really how I think the world would really act in a situation of post-apocalyptic, which you rarely see
Yeah,
in
on a
movies
yeah,
of that.
if the world was on
Yeah.
a train, yeah.
It's really condensing everything in our world to one really confined space, and I think that's a brilliant way to set up a movie that's about how we separate as a society of class, and how, you know, the lower tier has to rebel to make change, which I think is a really obviously it's been, you know, hundreds of years where that's happened, but it's really relevant to which, you know, Parasite also explores, is, you know, the top 1% sort of controlling how the lower class really act. And if you put that in a balls to the wall, just brilliantly directed action movie, I think that is just something that I've never seen before on film. To tell really two simultaneous stories happening, which is just people on a train, trying to rebel, but also how much it is like our world condensed in one small, speedy train in the ice. And just from a storytelling perspective, I think that's just amazing. I think Bong Joon-ho is, Korean cinema is something that Americans really look for inspiration, because they do tell really relevant stories just universally, and they do it in a really violent and just balls to the wall crazy storytelling, especially in Snowpiercer, and if you've seen Parasite, much of the same way. And he's really had a great decade, and I think this movie, you could argue Parasite's a better film. I think it is overall, but I think Snowpiercer really, it really shaped how I look at how action movies could be much more than just a simple action premise, and it could become a really emotional experience, and a great cast too. And Bong Joon-ho's the best. What do you guys think of that movie?
Yeah, I love Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer is also a great movie.
Snowpiercer
barely made my top
into
10.
the snow. He got lost on a Christmas day. No, I think Snowpiercer. I said it again. Snowpiercer is awesome. Yeah, everything you said, like the close quarters and the nastiness, on the way the different cars interact with each other, and Chris Evans is just a badass. And
best performance by
the
far.
fight scenes are just so drawn out, to where everything feels like it's at stake, and the kind of just intricacies that you find when you're on this train, like there's just so many things that like so much exploration that you go on with these characters. I just think it's just so amazing. It's like just a brilliant display of art direction in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, just awesome movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I also really like Snowpiercer. And before I had seen Parasite, I had no idea it was the same director.
Oh, wow.
And then since seeing Parasite, I desperately need to rewatch Snowpiercer. But yeah, loved it. And again, a great cast. Chris Evans is great in it. And yeah, just knowing that Parasite and Snowpiercer are by the same director, I need more of the bong in my life,
Let that bong up, baby.
That's all John is about.
Pass me the bong, Jake. Yeah, I need it. Yeah,
he's on that Cypress Hill, hits from the bong, always talking about him every week on our show.
Yeah, man, I just mentioned him, and I just had recently seen
you
Murders
watched
and
something
Murder,
last week. Yeah.
Which that I probably wouldn't have gotten around to seeing had I not just seen Parasite, and loved Parasite, obviously. What did you say about Weinstein? What did he?
It's a long story. I wish I could delve more into it. Basically, they bought the rights to the movie after it premiered at I think it was Cannes Film Festival, and they're like, okay, it's great, but we need to cut out a shit ton of it. So he brought Bong Joon-ho to the editing room, and he's like, all right, cut this. And Bong was really one of the only directors to ever tell Harvey Weinstein, he's like, go fuck yourself. It's my movie. You're not even.
Hell yeah.
You're not from Korea, man. You don't know how we make movies.
And stop touching my wife.
And then Harvey's like, you're right. We still need to cut a little bit of it, or else we're not releasing this movie in the U.S. And so he compromised. So basically, what I mean is, like, I would love to see a director's cut of that movie, because I think it's perfect as it is. But imagine
that there's more of a distinct, clear, concise
Bong Joon-ho is a really distinct storyteller, and his characters have a really special language and how they talk to each other. It's almost playful, and I think he took a lot of that out of the movie, like probably 10 or 20 minutes of character development and great stuff that we didn't see. But regardless, I think it stands on its own as just a really damn good movie. And have you seen The Host, John?
No.
Have you seen The Host?
I need to see that.
I haven't seen it yet. It's been on my list for a while after Quentin Tarantino talked about it.
It is the perfect monster movie. It's just everything you would love about Parasite to a certain extent, but just imagine a monster is abducting people in the middle of that. It's just really great characters and just a really great another mirror of what our world is like, but with a monster. And I think he does that. He just, like you said, with Memories of Murder, he'll just put really, relatable characters in really shitty situations and lets it play out, and it ultimately becomes a really just great reflection on who we are and how we deal with stuff. And I think, yeah, he's one of my favorite directors in general, and I'm glad Parasite's doing really well.
Yeah, he seems like such a great guy too.
Yeah,
And there's just another reason to hate Harvey Weinstein.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's
He's
the
got to
worst
put his
thing.
dick everywhere, doesn't he? Yeah.
In the train, he's got to put it on the train.
Yeah.
God damn it.
He's a predator to women and a predator to movies, and I'm glad he's gonna rot in prison. Yeah.
Hell yeah, son.
That was good.
So yeah, what's your number 3?
My number 3, we have talked about also a lot on this podcast. My top 3, spoilers alert in general, I have talked about a lot on this podcast. Number 3 consists one of my favorite musical scores of all time. It's got some of the best directors of all time, and it's got Ex Machina and Star Wars' Oscar Isaac. It is Inside Llewyn Davis.
Oh. Yeah.
Well.
Before you go on, I'll say
yeah.
my number 3 is also Inside Llewyn Davis.
Oh, there we go.
All right, let's
How
share.
about that?
Let's share our number 3.
Let's share it,
it. Oh, so nice.
It's the season
during
of
the
sharing.
during the
Yeah.
holidays. Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. That's awesome. That's like, I don't think we've ever we've definitely shared picks before.
Mhm.
But I don't think we've ever had the exact same slot.
I think this is the first. Yeah.
Yeah.
The first on the podcast. Wow.
Nice.
I'm witnessing history, aren't I?
We're thinking we're thinking alike.
Yes.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, what more can we say? We love this movie. We love we adore it. The music, the countless numbers, the Adam Driver boom boom, and the please Mr. Kennedy, I don't wanna go and just the fact that this movie is just so, at the same time it has all these just scenes that bring a smile to your face and are yet also just so bleak and sad as you're watching this guy endlessly struggle, as kind of the whole movie's about the end of this folk singer's career that nobody heard about, essentially. Yeah, and I never kind of thought that a movie about a folk star, like a fictional folk star from the 60s would be this high on my decade list for the 2010s, but on just a personal level, I just love it that much.
Yeah, that's same for me too. When you really, I guess, look at the premise, it's a struggling folk singer in New York in the 60s. It's like, okay, I guess that's kind of interesting, but it doesn't really pull me in. But this is a movie that so personally strikes a chord with me, no pun intended. And it's another one that's just utterly rewatchable, and it's also one that I also think it's like we mentioned a little bit before with I think Jake's number 4 pick, but I think it sort of displays some themes on depression and mental health too, and it's something that I rewatch sort of on when I sort of have a down period or a stretch where I need to sort of uplift myself, which is weird because it is a very bleak film.
Yeah, because at the end he kind of gets kicked in the face, literally thrown down into the streets, by the industry, if you will. But I guess there is something about his relentless stubbornness to do what he believes he's born to do that just it's kind of very uplifting at the same time.
And it almost too is like it gives you sort of a level of self-awareness where you see that he's taking out a lot of issues that he has with himself personally and stuff that's gone on. And he takes that out on other people, and it's it can be relatable in that sense. Whereas that if even just in general, very basic level, if you're having a bad day, and then you will flip someone off while you're driving in your car or something, and you realize, oh, it's not really about them doing something. It's just that I'm like pissed off today. That's a very basic level of thinking of it too. But even with I guess depression, that can lead you to being angry or giving you resentment towards something. But I think in the end, even he's getting when he, I guess you see him again with this man who beats the living shit out of him. It's almost like a full circle moment where he has sort of a self-awareness moment, come to Jesus moment with himself.
Right.
And I think it's bleak, but also at the same time it can be uplifting and relatable. In a way.
And then there's just something about like that Bob Dylan number at the end, how he's singing the same song as him, and how it kind of speaks to how there were all these, folk singers that we never heard about from this era, and it was essentially because a guy, there's a lot of talk during the movie about how the industry is looking for something different. They're all seeing the same thing, and essentially this young kid with a twangy voice doing the same like folk songs as everyone else, but kind of putting his own spin on it is like, and ended up being known as the greatest songwriter ever. Is kind of just like that. The fact that he came from an era of all these just folk singers that were just struggling to get by. Yeah, I've always just found that really interesting.
Yeah, and I think I looked a lot into this too, just because the movie made me interested. But I think it's loosely based off of Dave Van Ronk, who I'd never heard of before the movie. But I guess he was a legendary folk singer in New York during this time who never really like made it big like Bob Dylan. But with everyone sort of around him, he was like the guy. But Bob Dylan somehow is the one that made it big.
Yeah.
And he's regarded as one of the greatest musicians of all time. And but Dave Ronk was always this sort of underlying legend in the scene that just things happened in his life that he never ended up making it. And so that you can kind of relate that to Oscar Isaac's character. But yeah, it's really I don't know. It's a movie that I've wanted to like analyze more and rewatch just to
we'll have to watch it together
more
sometime, John, whenever we find the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely over the years it's become one of my faves for sure. So, yeah, that's our number 3.
Two birds, one stone.
Our collective number 3.
Exactly. On to number 2.
Here we go. Number 2 is Good Time, directed by the Safdie brothers.
Cool.
Cool movie, isn't it?
It's a cool movie.
The Safdie brothers have, I would always cite them as, as me, someone who's desperately trying to make films at a shoestring budget and working with non-professionals a lot of the time. The Safdie brothers, and I guess this is a quick tidbit on them, not on the film itself, but they made short films for I think a decade. Just whatever popped into their head, they would shoot it. Basically, oftentimes it'd be like skits on the street or kind of social conventions that they would kind of deconstruct. And I love their short films. And they obviously went on to make really great feature films as well. I believe some of them are in the Criterion Channel or Amazon Prime, some of their early work, which is really great. But Good Time is a movie that it was my introduction to them. And it's a movie that, like a lot of these, just shifted my perspective on what's possible in film, especially making it. I believe they probably made it under $20 million. That movie, like a lot of character studies we see these days, we follow a really despicable, shitty human being, played by the great Sir Edward Robert Pattinson, who's I think one of the best actors we have working today. Launching that sort of Pattinson sans. I don't think there's a good word for that, but just him really killing it. And Good Time really kind of launched him into the stratosphere of taking him seriously, and he's Batman now, and he's in the new Christopher Nolan film. And Good Time, like I've said with all these movies, it says so much about us. I think it's in response to having a really divided country and having a really divided people. I think it looks in that in a very bleak lens, and how this man sort of navigates a really shitty night, and sort of this white privileged look at the world that's very much showing how certain people in this world could take what they want with no repercussions. They could do it relentlessly until everyone around them has sort of suffered because of them, and that's Robert Pattinson in this movie. And you don't necessarily advocate for what he's doing, but you see why he does it, and you see how a person can sink to that level of scum, and how so many people in our world have sunk into that level of scum. I think this movie, above all of that, is just extremely visceral. I think the Safdie brothers, if you've seen, I can't wait to see Uncut Gems, but if you've seen the trailer, they've created a new genre of chaos filmmaking, which is just presented in the world in the most chaotic, just, you can't trust anything, and you can't trust anyone, which I've said in previous movies, which I think is a really cool trait to put in a movie, and your lead character. And I think Good Times, a really great character study. I think it's one of the best performances we've had this decade, and I think if someone were to ask me to show me a snapshot of the late 2010s, I would show them Good Time, because I think it says a lot about us in the worst way possible. And I'm sorry that was such a sad rant about why I love that movie.
No, that's
it's all right. All of yours have been sad.
It's been a sad 2010s. What can I say?
Don't worry. Yeah, it's consistency.
Yeah. It's when we've all become adults, so that's why it gets sad.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah, Good Time was. Hearing you talk about Good Time makes me that much more excited about Uncut Gems.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see, I just saw Adam Sandler and Kevin Garnett on Jimmy Kimmel, and
hell yeah,
I gotta watch that. Oh my god,
that's on my watch list on YouTube.
I was like, I forgot Kevin Garnett's in this too.
Yeah,
yeah.
I forgot he's my favorite actor. How could I forget that?
I see everything he's done. Robert Pattinson, after this movie, you realize, okay, he's not just that guy from Twilight.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen any of the Twilight movies, so I can't really talk.
Me neither.
Now I'm excited to see how he, what he does with the Batman character, I guess, just because after seeing that and The Lighthouse now, he's obviously one of the best actors working today.
Our other De Niro.
Yes, he's our other next De Niro. Yeah, the chaos that goes on in Good Time, and that you can tell that will be in Uncut Gems. Yeah, the Safdie
I really like
exciting.
the phrase of chaos cinema because I've always thought that the Safdie brothers movies are so unique that especially Good Time, and I still have to see Heaven Knows What, but Uncut Gems looks on similar lines to Good Time in a way, and the idea of chaos cinema really encapsulates the way these movies seem to be constructed and the feeling it brings audiences. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and with chaos cinema, it's it shows how hectic, especially living in New York or any type of city where there's so many people and so many people that want shit from each other, and how everything's just a transaction of money and really, with strangers and stuff like that. It captures urban life and how hectic that is, and how people just are at odds with each other so quickly. And again, how someone like Pattinson, who's seemingly like kind of a loser, he's robbing banks with his mentally ill brother, played by Benny Safdie, who's great, and how self-important that a lot of people think they are, that the world revolves around them and is like, give me everything, I will do whatever it takes to have it. While also he wants to take care of his brother too, so it's just a super complicated situation, and so are a lot of people in this world. So I feel like that movie captures that complexity just perfectly. And like I said,
I've noticed through watching most of the Safdie brothers work that they kind of possess a knack for building stories around very out there characters, very quirky characters filled with anxiety that have a sort of programmed desperation to do oddball things to survive. And this one really goes all out on that idea. And listening to you talking about makes me want to watch it again. And I can't wait for Uncut Gems. Very much so. I'm really mad at everyone who has seen it before me.
Yeah.
Because all those people,
me too.
Suck, and I'm awesome.
I've been Googling like past few days of Uncut Gems early screenings to see if there's any sort of early screening around where I'm at. Yeah. And Good Times it's one of those movies that after seeing, it's like, okay, I want to see whatever these guys do next.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you guys watch. I like Casey Neistat on YouTube. I think he's got some cool videos. But that was the first time I ever saw them. Was I think they're friends or whatever, and he was just in.
Oh wow.
He just had the Safdie brothers in one of his videos, and I was like, oh okay, these guys are kind of interesting. And all of a sudden, they're directing this movie with Robert Pattinson, and it's super well acclaimed. And now they're doing Uncut Gems.
Yeah, and now Adam Sandler, and Kevin Garnett. Yeah, he's doing all. Adam Sandler now is doing so much press for, and he's like, these Safdie guys, they're very serious. So I just wanted to do my best. He always talks about, he's like, the Safdies are very serious, real filmmakers.
Did you hear what he said, that if he doesn't get nominated for the Oscar for Uncut Gems, he's gonna make the worst movie of his career next year with Netflix? And I believe him, because like, how many times has he done that? In a way,
it's like a bid, but at the same time, it's not, because he totally probably is making a movie for Netflix next year as scheduled.
He wants that Oscar.
Where he's going on vacation, yeah.
Yeah,
he's probably going on vacation somewhere, and then they're going to make a movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, Netflix, we're going to Hawaii, so how about Spade comes along and we'll play with dolphins?
Yeah.
We'll make a movie.
But yeah, you should definitely watch his interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
It's on good. It's on my list, John.
Yeah.
Don't
worry.
I
was impressed with Kevin Garnett, and I'm excited to see Kevin Garnett.
I hear he's amazing.
You're impressed with Kevin Garnett on the Jimmy Kimmel interview?
Because he's like, I don't know, when you see after the Celtics won the championship and Kevin
Garnett,
he
seems
anything is possible.
He seems like such an incoherent maniac, but on Jimmy Kimmel he has full sentences and seems he's at peace with himself. He doesn't want to.
He's not just this dumb athlete. Yeah.
He doesn't want to kill LeBron James. Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, I just play myself or whatever. But it's like, no, Kevin. You're more than just yourself, man. Yeah. I can't wait for that. So
someone had to have good time on this list, so I'm glad.
Awesome.
I'm glad. I'm thankful.
All right, Luke.
My number 2. I'm just gonna say it.
Just say it, man.
I haven't said it yet. My number 2 is Frances Ha.
You've talked about it on this podcast before, haven't you?
Yes, I have. And
you didn't say it this time, so.
To preview another direct filmmaker's work that's coming out, Little Women is coming out, and so someone's got to have some Greta Gerwig on this list, so I thought, yeah, this is not only a movie that I personally just love, and I gotta like John said with Inside Llewyn Davis, it's like this movie is really like therapy to me. Like it's something I gotta just like watch sometimes. You know, I just gotta put on, and it's especially made for that because it is like an hour and 20, and every scene is so much. It's filled with so much substance and wit and character and richness that it just makes every second worth it. And and not only do I personally love it, I just think that it is so important because Greta Gerwig is so important, and this is her like just not like it's obviously she didn't direct the film, but I believe that it is her movie in a way. Like it is about her. It is like one of the most personal movies she's made, and it is. And it kind of just shows a new way in which just kind of a breakthrough way in which just a breakthrough performance for a female character, a female persona, a female actress in ways that we haven't seen, in kind of a natural real life way that we haven't seen. Like there's that South Park line, it's a joke. Women are funny now. Get over it, And I'm always like rooting for women to be funny and for women to express themselves not just comedy, but also just showing who they really are. And I don't think not only just for men and women, I think this movie just has one of the most personal performances and scripts that we've seen. But I think that just this movie has just so much it's all just real life dialogue from Greta Gerwig's life, real things she said, things that she's thinking on a daily basis, and just feels like the portrait of her. And she's not only she really funny in it and has just expresses all her quirkiness in it, but she just describes her just the lust for life that she has. And I just really like Frances Ha, and I just think it's so important for the future of acting, writing, directing, and especially is such a flagship role model film for females.
Yeah, Noah Baumbach, another director that's big right now because of Marriage Story, and Greta Gerwig, who directed Little Women. Yeah, it's I really liked Frances Ha too, and it also stars Adam Driver, who
he's
again
back
proves
again.
that he's one of the best actors of his generation and just our time right now. Yeah, it's a good pick.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Frances Ha because I left it off my list too. Number 12, I think. But that's like it means a lot to me too, and I think generationally, anyone under the age of 30 deeply connects to Frances as a character and Greta Gerwig's interpretation on sort of being lost in yourself and wherever you live when you're in your 20s, and feeling like you don't belong. Like it's like a childlike feeling that you'd feel in school, is like, where do I go and who do I integrate with? And it's like you still feel that in your 20s, and I think Greta, that's really truthful for her to put that on screen. And it's weirdly taboo because it's like loneliness and isolation is never really depicted as well as it does in like a comedy like that, and having a really great sense of realism. And it's a love story about friendship also, which is a really sort of great look at that as well. And I could talk for days, but it means a lot to me. It means a lot to friends that I've had that love that movie to death. It's really become a phenomenon, really, for film lovers and Noah Baumbach fans and Greta Gerwig fans. It's a great movie, and I hope they stay married for a long time and make great art together.
Yes, I hope that marriage story doesn't come true for them.
It's definitely one that's it's big now with movie lovers. It'll go down as sort of a classic, or just a common favorite with people of our generation. I feel like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good pick. All right. Number two. So my number two is one that I know both of you have seen, and we have also talked about it within the past half an hour or so. And I wanted to include at least one 2019 movie on it because so far I've loved 2019 as a year for movies. So my number two is Parasite.
Nice.
Bong Joon-ho. Yes, and a movie that I still right now I am dying to see it again, and I can't wait till it comes out on VOD so I can rewatch it. But and immediately wanted to see all of Bong Joon-ho's movies. Had no idea he also directed Snowpiercer, so I need to rewatch that one too. And then of course I also loved Memories of Murder. Just watching that, and now The Host is on my list too.
Definitely.
But Parasite was one I didn't know too much about it going into, which I thought was great, because just based on just reading the short little plot of it and seeing the poster for it, it looks like it's this really dark thriller that's gonna be like unsettling to watch. And there are parts of that, but it's also it also feels real in the sense that there's a lot of humor in it too, and it's not just completely through and through a very dark and sort of gritty thriller. That it feels real. It's a real story about classism, and it has some dark themes in it, but it's not too over the top or bleak. And it just kind of blew me away, and I can't wait to watch it again. And so far, it's spoiler for our future top 30 list of 2019. But far, it's still my favorite movie.
Probably,
of the year.
yeah. If it's up this far for the decade, I assume that it's probably pretty high on the the top 30. So thanks for the spoiler. I don't need to watch it. I don't need to watch it now.
Yeah. So I mean, who knows? It could change. There's still some movies coming out this year, but
these lists are interchangeable.
Yeah. Who knows? But I absolutely loved Parasite, and I just immediately after seeing it, I just wanted to talk to people about it. It's one of the, I didn't want to just think about it to myself. I wanted oh my god, I just want to talk to. Oh, you saw Parasite too? Yeah. Oh my god, wasn't it so? Yeah.
That's a sign of just a really great movie. It's just
I remember when I saw Sorry to Bother You in the theaters. There was like one other guy in there with me, and like after it was over, I was kind of like, we just kind of both awkwardly walked out, and I just kind of wanted to say like, oh my god, like, did you see that?
Just wanted to bond over that with him.
But of course I just like didn't say anything, and we awkwardly walked out while I was full of energy.
He was probably thinking the same thing too.
Or I was kind of scared of being like, oh my god, did you see that? And he was like, yeah, what the fuck was that? And I would have been like,
sucked.
Oh, that's why I don't talk to people randomly.
It's another great 2010 pick, by the way. Sorry to bother you.
Yeah. Another one that easily could have made one of our lists.
Yeah, Parasite, like you said, the poster, and if you see, it's the thing with Korean movies, you're like, that looks like a really dark Korean film about, who knows, it looks like a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
But that movie has charm to it. It draws you in visually because how beautiful it looks. The score is great. The performances are great. It's like a dynamite just knockout of a movie that just has a ton to say. Pretty much everything I said was Snowpiercer in terms of classism and the different power structures of our world, and to do that in a very simple premise, in a really simple thriller, taking twists and turns that you don't see for miles coming. And I think I would not be mad if anyone said that's their favorite Bong Joon-ho movie or just the best movie of 2019. I think it's perfect. I really love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's when it started out, I think it was great that I didn't know much about it going into.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to even give you more context, I saw it maybe a week or two after I had just moved to a new state. I didn't know anybody. I asked my wife briefly if she wanted to see it. She saw like the poster, and she was like, "Yeah, it's probably not for me." But it's totally not that at all.
No.
And I went to it, and it just starts out. It just sort of feels like a comedy. And it slowly unravels into this this darker thriller, and it all works. It just feels so natural, and like it feels like a comedy starting out. It's just sort of normal for this family too, and then all of a sudden shit hits the fan. And I absolutely love Parasite. I needed to include one 2019 movie on my list, and this was easily the one to do it. So, yeah, that's my number 2.
Love it.
All right, we're down to number 1.
Weirdly, this was my easiest slot on my list because this isn't only my favorite movie of the 2010s, it's also my favorite movie in general of all time.
Wow.
If someone on the street were to ask me, what's your favorite movie? Why do you make movies? Why do you want to make movies? American Honey is my favorite movie, and Luke talked about it before. Again, I second everything he said. The first viewing experience of that movie is just absolutely breathtaking. You go on this just spiritual journey with these characters. Like he said, it was depicting a very underrepresented part of our country, which is the lower half economically, especially with youth. Like you've seen in the Florida Project, you see it through the eyes of a young child. American Honey, they're more so like 19, 20 years old, early 20s, I would say. So you follow Sasha Lane's character, her name's Star, and you sort of just go with her as she navigates, the complexities of not only our world and how it's really tough to navigate, like geographically, like it's a road trip movie, but also, what kind of job or career path you should take, and who you should love. In her case, it's Shia LaBeouf. And she does it in such a fearless way where I think she, Star, who's the lead character, is a representation of just freedom. And in a world that's so constrained by a career path or just really anything that's holding you down in life, financially or religiously, whatever, that movie just takes it on its head, and it's like, let's go be free together. And that's what these characters are in this movie. It's a singular vision in terms of just how it makes you feel free, how it teaches. It's a common thread in these movies, is movies that teach you that we need to take care of each other, and we need, especially in the latter half of the 2010s. And the movie shows how economically and large corporations have sort of plummeting the lower half of this country. And Shia LaBeouf's character is like the representation of like the dangerous side of like falling in love, and how it can be sort of chaotic. And I think that movie just overall, I could ramble for days about it, but I think it represents everything I love about this decade, the 2010s, which is an artist having just a few $1 million and going to make a movie about so many things that we take for granted, which is each other, like other people, and what freedom truly is, and what love really is, and what we need in this life. And in the case of American Honey, we don't need a lot. Truly, we don't need a lot. We need family, we need friends, we need a purpose, and that movie is about finding a purpose for any aspect of life. And I think it's the best representation of this decade in terms of independent film, but also having a unique voice, especially like Luke said with Frances Ha from a female perspective. And that's my favorite movie of all time and my favorite movie of the decade. I love it so much. I hope you all see it.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said when Luke was talking about it, it's one I obviously need to see because I still haven't seen it, and I've heard from other people actually about how much they loved it, and it's not a movie that the general public I feel like knows too much about.
Oh.
So you don't hear about it too much. It's not really on top of your mind, but yeah, it's one I'll be seeing for sure, just based on your recommendations. Yeah.
Yeah, he's all I'll say is he's not overselling it.
Maybe on a first watch I am, because I've seen it like 10 times, but
Email John if you think he is overselling it.
Yeah, not only your favorite movie of the decade, but favorite movie of all time.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's big. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just on an emotional standpoint, it's like it goes beyond just a movie, because like I could sit here and talk about Mission Impossible and Creed and all these movies that from the decade that I loved that I left off. That was the one movie, maybe apart from Moonlight, that really just made me think about humanity and just more than just a film. And above that, that movie is really well constructed. Like, it's beautifully shot. It has a soundtrack from just really great contemporary music. Like, there's a lot of rap music.
Yeah,
There's a
the
lot
music
of great,
really captures the decade really well.
Yeah. It's just a perfect snapshot of youth and the best parts about youth and beyond that, just life in general. And that's the best way I think I could sum it up. It's just a celebration of breaking out of your shell. And for someone who's like an introverted, just shy person, it's like it's a freedom of just expressing yourself in one movie. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
All right. Well, my number one.
Felt like I just got a lot off my chest.
Wow. We have one number one down. Now on to the next. Here we go.
My number one is Spring Breakers.
Spring Break.
Spring Breakers. Go watch Spring Breakers. Yeah, well, Jake already talked about it.
Good movie.
I've also talked about it a lot on this podcast, and I will say I've only slept like 3 hours right now because I'm a maniac, and so explaining Spring Breakers just sounds like really tough, but I will do it. So when my like journey with this movie, I basically had to like kind of forget certain notions that I've had about watching movies in order to like understand it more, you know, because I remember like the first time I ever saw it, I was questioning just everything. It was like so long ago, and I was just like, I remember I saw it and I was like, what the fuck, what is going on? Like that is so stupid, you know, how they kill everyone at the end. That is so dumb. Why would they even do that? This movie's dumb. And so then I watched it like many years later, and I had a more like open mind. I really just I cleared my mind of what I thought before, and I got more out of it the second time, and I just kind of thought that the movie was a satire the second time on like MTV culture and just kind of on just my generation, our generation in general. It felt like a satire on our generation. So then I watched it a third time, and I remember it was like Jake. I watched it with Jake, and Jake told me to not even look at it that way, to even forget more about what I thought about it. And so I watched it again with an even clearer mind, and I basically just took in the energy that this movie has. And that's why it's my top of the decade. It's why it's one of my favorite movies ever. This so weird, fucked up movie that a lot of people hate and don't understand. It's just because it has an untouchable energy that basically encapsulates so much of what it is to just be alive. Like Jake, I'll just reiterate. Jake talked about breaking out of your shell and breaking out of your routine. I just feel like this movie's about a lot about. I mean, you can interpret it as, I don't even know if Harmony Korine intends it to be about anything, but I think that you can say it's about getting out of a rut. You could say it's you could also say it's about MTV culture. You could say it's about the celebrating just debauchery and partying and substance use in general. But overall, I just love it so much because I've never seen a movie quite like it. It makes me feel like nothing else. It makes me feel so free. It has an untouchable energy. I just love the never-ending Skrillex imagery where it's just like constant partying and the na 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 na. I just can't get enough of that. I love watching James Franco drive his whatever awesome car to Gucci Mane and Waka Flocka and walk into the club and talk to Gucci Mane's there acting. And I love watching James Franco talk about money on his bed and how he has Scarface on repeat. Yeah, I just love this movie. I love Harmony Korine. He's one of the I just think he's easily, or if not the most brilliant, one of the most brilliant minds in art and cinema that we've had over the past couple decades, and this is his best film. So yeah, that is why it's my best of the decade.
Wow, awesome! Very passionate explanation as to your number one.
I thought so. Also, everyone knows I loved The Beach Bum.
Yes, The Beach Bum I also really enjoyed this year. Yeah, and I need to now. I've only seen Spring Breakers and The Beach Bum of Harmony Korine. I gotta dive more into.
Go down that Gummo rabbit hole. Gummo and Trash Humpers. That'll be fun.
I've heard some of his movies can be a little disturbing.
Sure, you could say that.
But I think I'm prepared for it now.
Yeah, I will say you've seen this. You've seen Spring Breakers. I mean, you're ready. You're not like, I mean, you see some pretty depressing things, but you're fine. You're fine.
I can handle it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I guess anything else to say about your number one? We had a lot from Jake about it too.
Spring
break.
No, I'm good.
Awesome. I definitely think people made their sort of preconceived opinions on it just by seeing like Selena Gomez and Vanessa Hudgens.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's these Disney girls that are trying to like be out there, and
it was marketed really badly too.
I also love how the casting does. I love that about it too. How it takes. It's a group of people just really trying to do something different and not giving a shit about what I mean. James Franco always is like this, but specifically the Disney Channel females, how they're just in a way that they're really going on this adventure, this weird adventure for real, and just kind of just trying to do something different from their lives and just not giving a shit what everyone thinks. And yeah, this movie just doesn't give a shit, and I like that.
Nice. Yeah. Doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's so serious.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess that leads me to my number one, which I will preface with it's not. I wouldn't deem it as nearly as important as your number ones.
I don't
it's
say
important
that. Come on.
It's important to me because it's my favorite movie of the decade, and it's just personally just one of my favorite movies ever.
Is it Ted?
It's Ted 2. No, and my favorite, my number one movie of the decade is What We Do in the Shadows. The Taika Waititi, Jermaine Clement comedy from 2014. Mockumentary style movie. And I don't know, I guess it's kind of a curveball in a way. It's not like a super.
I'm like a little surprised, but I also shouldn't be, because your like best of list, I mean your favorites of all time list out of everything from the decade, this is like the highest on that list, so I shouldn't be surprised.
As of now, this is definitely be in my top 10 movies of all time. I would say.
Wow.
It's I think I've said this about my top 4, but just rewatchability. Like this is one I could literally watch whenever. And it's because
it doesn't take itself too seriously.
It doesn't take itself too seriously. But it is so like perfect towards my sense of humor that I can't even it makes
I
me
would say everyone's almost too. I think it's like just I think it's just funny. Like it's just
it is undoubtedly just a funny movie.
Yeah, like if we want to get deep with it.
Mm-hmm. and I'm a big fan of Flight of the Conchords too, and it has Jermaine Clement in it. He's one of the directors, but it has a similar style of humor, and just like that dry sense of humor is just something that I guess I've always had. I'm not a super like peppy, upbeat sort of in your face type person, and this is just sort of the dry office mockumentary type of humor that really just like is right up my alley. And I just love this movie so much. I love Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement and their friend. God, what's his name? Like Stu. Yes, Stu. He's like the one normal person in it.
And
then
they eat him up.
And then Rhys Darby too. He's one of the werewolves in it, and there's this whole werewolf clan that comes into it. I can't even explain it too much. It's just how much I love this movie. It's every scene so funny. When I rewatch it, I'm always like, thinking in my head, like, this is when they do this. This is when they say this.
That is the sign of a favorite movie, where like every scene you're like, oh, I can't miss this. I'm ready for this. Yeah.
Yes, I just nerd out about it.
Yeah, you're just glued to the chair. Yeah, I saw this movie in like film school.
Really?
Yeah, I saw it in film school. They showed it to us because we were supposed to make mockumentaries for class, and I didn't know what it was, and I just remember watching it and thinking, why? All right, this is the funniest thing like I've ever seen. Why did I not know what this is? How have I never seen this at all? Yeah, and I've never watched. It's rare when you watch a comedy where it like hits, every beat, every comedic beat it goes for, and this really does, and it's just got a beautiful rhythm to it.
Yeah, I'm not unique in thinking this is a funny movie for sure, but it's just when I look for a comedy, like it ticks every box as to what I guess works for me. Yeah, I just think it's so clever and funny, and almost when I hear that, it's like, okay, it's like a mockumentary style thing. I'm like, okay, like The Office has done that, like Spinal Tap, like we've seen that, but this it doesn't feel like a filmmaking tool that's been overused. It just feels so great. I love the character dynamics.
It's just so fresh, and I think it's just I think it's just because it's pure comedic brilliance, and that is it. You know, like there's nothing. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing else.
There's a reason why Taika is one of the most celebrated and just people love him this decade, because his output's crazy too. Like What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People, Thor Ragnarok. He's been on a run. But he looks at the world in such like a silly and childlike, just really uplifting way, and I think people just love that and relate to that, and he's just really confident in himself, and I think he's becoming one of our most unique storytellers that we have, and I love that movie. I love Hunt for the Wilder People a lot too. It's just Sam Neill's so great in that movie, and he has such a great way of working with actors and really having just confident performances and really funny performances that you don't see in film anymore. And he's redefining comedy, which is a thing we need for sure.
Yeah, Hunt for the Wilder People was one that nearly made my list too. Yeah, Taika Waititi he's a really likable guy nowadays, which is why I mean, Jojo Rabbit was a extremely well marketed movie, just in the fact that while people may not know Taika Waititi by name, they at least know about the movie now. They know, they obviously know the Thor movies, Thor Ragnarok, but
right.
Yeah, it's What We Do in the Shadows. It's just, yeah. I mean, I was interested in seeing it just based on the fact that I'm a fan of Flight of the Conchords, but then this just even takes that to another level. That sort of dry sense of humor that Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi have. So
to quote John Mulaney quoting Mick Jagger, it's just funny.
Funny, not funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my number one. But like I just mentioned, Hunt for the Wilder People almost made my list, which is a good segue into some honorable mentions. Which I know, Jake, you have some honorable mentions that you.
I have so many.
Definitely have to mention.
I'll just rattle a few off really fast. I won't talk a lot about them. Man, another action movie that I wish I could have mentioned is The Raid 2. And honestly, The Raid 1, I think they're the best choreography we've ever gotten in an action movie. The Raid 2 specifically is incredibly ambitious and really great. What else do we got here? Widows, really, really important movie, a really great thriller that we don't see these days, a really great sort of Michael Mann callback, and a great ensemble cast. Creed, Ryan Coogler is also one of our most important filmmakers that we have, stepping up to do Black Panther, and Fruitvale Station was a great debut, but I think Creed is a great, just very uplifting sports movie and a very great character study, first and foremost, and I think is electrifying. Parasite we already talked about. I will mention one more. Manchester by the Sea, starring Casey Affleck, directed by Kenneth Lonergan, is one of my favorite scripts of the decade. That movie captures grief and just hardship better than most films do. I think it's a really brave movie. I think the performances are great. I think Kenneth Lonergan is one of the most underrated writers ever. I think he's only made 3 movies. He also wrote Gangs of New York, which isn't so good. But damn, he understands human emotion better than most people, and I think Manchester is his best film. What do you guys have? Do you have any of those?
I have Creed because we watched Creed that one time and it really blew our fucking minds. Like, not overselling it, people. Like, Creed is unreal how good it is. I have The Irishman. I have The Lighthouse, and Parasite from this year. I also have Widows. And also another one from this year, I decided to give Quentin Tortellini some love, and I put Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the list because I think this is like probably my all-time Tarantino, and I think it's just like a hallmark that the movie guy is making a movie about the movie industry. And I fucking love that. I have the other Mission Possible 5, not Fallout, Mission Possible 5. I have Get Out, Jordan Peele's Get Out, and I have Fast and the Furious 7, the one where Paul Walker said goodbye to his friends, because it's all about family and Coronas. Yeah. Lady Bird, Mad Max Fury Road, that was on John's. Call Me by Your Name, which was on Jake's. Good Time, which was on Jake's. And I have the other two Paul Thomas Andersons of the decade. I wanted to put them in the top 10, but I wanted to have some variety. So yeah, Inherent Vice and Phantom Thread are also in my honorable mentions. And also Magic Mike Double XL is on my honorable mentions because Magic Mike's Double XL is stadium status male stripper movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that movie is just a amazing time.
I could have put that in my top 10. I don't know. I was too
Yeah,
cowardly.
it almost just yeah, it's like it's a ballsy, way too much of a ballsy move. Almost.
I couldn't describe it on this podcast in such a short time.
Ballsy.
Yeah, literally a balls in your
balls
face
to the wall
move.
excitement. That movie's perfect.
And also there's this movie I wanted to put in my top 10. I had it in there until the last 5 minutes, and I decided to put in The Wolf of Wall Street. So it was a movie called 444 Last Day on Earth, starring Willem Dafoe, and it's a very bleak film about an actor and a painter as they deal with the day the world comes to an end, essentially from climate change. And it is very bleak and very sad, but also I wanted to put it in there because I think it is so powerful, and just so forward thinking, or arguably more forward thinking than any movie on this list. But it's just so not as fun to talk about as some of the others, and I was just being honest with myself. I would much rather rewatch so many other movies than this, but just the fact that it affected me a lot and I thought was so forward thinking, I just had to at least mention it. So yeah, those are all my honorable mentions.
Nice. Like you guys, I also had Widows as one of my honorable mentions.
Hey,
it
Widows.
Literally, in the like few minutes before we started podcasting, I had that as my number 10, but I had to switch it out. And another one too. I was trying to give a more of a variety to my list, and think about what the 2010s will be remembered as, and I feel like Marvel movies and superhero movies are going to be...
Oh, of course.
The 2010s were all about that. So I had to think of my favorite, I guess, superhero movie. The only one that I really would give a 5-star rating to that I saw in the 2010s, and that's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
The best by
I love
far.
the art style, love the storyline. It's just such an enjoyable movie, and I've rewatched it since, and it's still just so incredibly like pleasing to the eye.
Yeah.
Like I can't get enough of just watching that, and I think it's a super unique and fun movie. Let's see what else. I also had Once Upon a Time in Hollywood included in there. I thought about Knives Out because I love that one too, but I was hesitant to put. The Irishman is another one too.
Mm-hmm.
I was hesitant to put too many 2019 movies in there just yet, but I think
it's a great year though.
Yeah, I think a few months from
least.
now, I definitely would include a couple more 2019 movies for sure. But yeah, that's wow. What a decade it's been.
This is exhausting decade, huh?
Yeah.
I did not think we would be doing this. Yeah. In 2010, I did not think that this was gonna happen.
Yeah, this is. I mean, Jake predicted this when he started his list 5 years ago.
I saw Inception and I was like, I will remember that I will make a list and do a podcast about it.
That actually reminds me, I nearly put Inception on my list. Strictly because in 2010, when I saw Inception, I was like, okay, this is the greatest thing that's ever been made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, I should get more into movies.
Oh my God, Christopher Nolan is a genius. And Inception, I'm like an auteur now. Inception is.
I am an auteur.
The most amazing.
He made me an
movie ever
auteur
made.
by just watching the movie.
I am now gonna make a movie just like Inception and become a legend. Yeah. I almost had to include it just because.
No, I
16-year-old me would have definitely had that in there. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Solid stuff, gentlemen.
Good
Yes.
picks all around.
Very good lists. It's yeah, wow. It's there's so much to say about the decade it's been, and I'm excited for the 2020s. and
Yes.
the movies that'll bring.
And those movies that we
Those
will watch
movies.
and
Yes.
then talk about.
So stay tuned for 2029 when
Yes.
we bring out our
Yeah.
top 10 of 2020's list.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gonna
Perhaps
be a barn burner.
perhaps Top Gun Maverick will be on my
Yes.
list. I that's the only movie I could think of that is coming
The
out
Top
next
Gun
year
sequel.
for some reason.
That whatever other Star Wars movie that
Yeah.
Disney throws out there, that'll be there.
Yeah, but
yeah.
yeah, it was good to have Jake on again. Jake will probably be
Yes.
back for some Oscars talk.
I will be
Yes.
there.
Because
We have our Oscar
the
expert.
Oscars is important to Jake, as it is
I will
to
say
all of
right
us-
now
to all
that,
of us down below.
To us all, yes.
I will say that Cats will win Best Picture, and you could quote me on
Oh.
that.
Hot take, wow.
No, that's a joke. I'm just excited to see Cats and to see how balls to the wall cinema has gotten over
I'm
this
sure,
decade.
and I know you will see Cats,
I will
and
see it
I-
on Christmas Day.
and I know I won't. So yeah, it was,
yeah.
it was.
You'll see our predictions when we debate between whether Rise of Skywalker or Cats will win Best
Yeah.
Picture. So, yeah, we'll stay tuned for that because I know you're excited to hear our thoughts on which one. But yeah,
Yeah, so have a Merry Christmas.
Have a blessed
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
Happy New Year, and we'll
or whatever you celebrate, a happy holiday.
happy holidays, happy Xmas.
And
Kwanzaa,
John and I
Hanukkah.
are going to be back with a much longer You thought this was long.
Oh, you don't even know what's coming.
You don't
Yeah.
know what long is.
You guys should do that
We're gonna-
all in one sitting just so you could break this record of 30
We will-
movies
Oh,
and
yeah.
do
We will-
60 movies in one podcast.
We will need some Adderall for that.
What is the Guinness Book of World Records for,
the longest podcast? I don't know,
should.
but it's
Yeah.
probably Joe Rogan or something.
Yes,
Uh,
probably. Yeah. We'll take some
Fuck Joe
Adderall. Watch the
Rogan.
Adderall Diaries. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how it's entirely possible that UFOs and
Yeah.
aliens have come here
Septic
at some point.
tanks or whatever,
Yeah.
Septic tanks.
whatever they put themselves
Also,
in.
I like
I'm feeling pretty good. Pretty good.